everything on this side of the board. Tried to kill the Avatar. Inflicted one wound, but failed to kill it. He's got one wound left. I rammed one of the Viper squad rather with my Night Spinnerless Night Spinner. And one of them can't shoot, doesn't matter because there's one without a star cannon that went down on it. Uriel and the Magen Ra killed each other off. That combat's done, but it didn't really matter in the end. So that's about all that happened. And, well, Dan will probably be able to do a little more damage to me.
Things are really moving quickly now. I managed to kill off Clay's Striking Scorpion unit that had been in this area over here with what's left of my Dark Reapers. They're about to get absolutely reamed by a Wraith Lord, but that's no big surprise. The Avatar killed off the last of the Wraith Guard. Now the only thing that's claiming that objective for Clay is that
Nothing.
that Warlock,
Yeah.
because he's still part of the squad. Right. And there's just not a lot left on the table, honestly. It's just a whole lot of mess going on right now. So hopefully we'll have this all sorted in a moment, and the last few turns should pass by pretty quickly.
Alright, well, I can confidently say that next turn neither of the fire prisms will be firing. Of course, it cost me the remains of my Night Spinner to do so. That's a wreck now. But one fire prism can't move or shoot. The other one cannot shoot. My Wraith Lord made it into combat with the Dark Reapers, and it's only a matter of time now before the squad's wiped out. It'll be next turn, assuredly. My Spirit Seer couldn't withstand the attacks from the Avatar, and the Wraith Guard squad was finally wiped out. Right now there's not a whole lot for this stuff to do. My last remaining Bastion is over here in this corner on this objective. He's got one troop squad left. I've got two troop squads left. I'm calling it now that it's probably going to be a draw, but we'll have to see how the remaining turns go.
Okay, bottom of turn 4. Right now, Clay's the only one holding an objective. He managed to kill off my last Dark Reaper with his Wraith Lord, which is no surprise. We all expected that to happen. I did finally manage to kill off the last Guardian from that squad. So Asterman is holding the objective with his Dire Avenger buddies there. And they're all just being cool, singing songs. Yeah, I assume that's what they're doing, because I can't imagine they're doing anything else. The Banshees have sustained enough casualties that they cannot regroup now, so that's a good thing. They're going to try and kill off the Avatar on their last run off with shooting, but otherwise this game is moving really fast now, and it doesn't take up a lot of the table.
Alright, so I fired some stuff, and his Vipers can't shoot next turn. That's it.
Turn, I moved my Vipers into contest. They passed their dangerous terrain test. I fired everything that the prisms had at the Dire Avengers. I managed to knock them down to just one Avenger, so they are still claiming, but it's contested. I'm actually claiming a spot all the way off over here, and that's where we are at the moment. Clay, you want to do the honorable and die on a 3-and-up? We continue. Game continues. One more turn.
All right. So nothing happened in my turn.
So I managed to kill off the last of the Dire Avengers and kill Asterman with the combined shots of combining the firepower of 2 prisms and a Viper squadron. The Avatar charged in combat with the Wraith Lord. He did 1 wound on him, took no wounds in return. And I'm claiming an objective all the way over in this far corner here. And the game ends on a 1, 2, or 3, continues on a 4-and-up. One more turn, last turn, turn 7.
Alright, so in my remaining turn, I desperately attempted to ram the other Wave Serpent, hoping to bring that down, and it would have resulted in a tied game, but no such luck. So he's going to speed off to another objective. I managed to take out the Avatar while taking another wound. So my Wraith Lord's down to 1 wound, but that hardly matters at this point.
Here at the end of the game, what was a very brutal battle, not a lot of models left. I managed to win the game with a scoring unit at an objective and surrounded Clay's Wraith Lord, who's down to 1 wound, just because it looks pretty. But that's the game.
Good game.
Good game.
Well, another game is over, and as usual, the games between Dan and I are pretty brutal. We had very little left alive. I had an empty Wave Serpent and a Wraith Lord with 1 wound and a Wraith Sword. I don't know what to say. My troops did pretty good. Surprisingly, I've used this list once before, and it did a lot worse. This time around, they're a little more resilient. They were able to make their objectives. What let me down was my total lack of killing ability towards the middle of the end of the game. I was able to gun down any living bodies on the battlefield, but in terms of anti-tank power, I really failed to roll any tank killing rolls. I stunned and shook several times, but beyond that, I did take down a Viper due to immobilizing it because it was in a squadron, but I had no real way of stopping the Wave Serpent that he had. His ace up the sleeve, as it were, of Guardians and a Wave Serpent that just kind of hung on the flank and avoided directly engaging anything for the duration of the game. So I was left to stew on the objectives and just be pounded by his fire prisms the whole game, which really wore down one side of the table. I just need to get more concentrated anti-tank firepower, I think, next time in this list. Either that or just it didn't do it for me. I would say my most effective unit in this battle was definitely the Fire Prism. Or not the Fire Prism, the Night Spinner. The most effective unit against me would have been the Fire Prism. But my Night Spinner did very well. It considerably thinned out his ground-bound Guardian squad. It pinned his Swooping Ox in place to be wiped out, and it took out a Dark Reaper as well. Made them have to test to move when they finally were forced from their position. There wasn't really anything else that did close as well as that. Dan suggested that my 5-man squad of Dire Avengers did very well. They did. Not necessarily due to anything that I did, more to the fact that Dan didn't inflict a lot of casualties on them, so they were managed to keep his Dire Avengers in combat long enough for my other units to come up behind them. Of course, that's something I'm pretty familiar with. I've found that Dire Avengers, well, they can hold in combat sometimes. I wouldn't necessarily count on them to wipe out squads, which was one reason why I brought Esserman in this game. And he did. At first, it seemed as though he was going to have a stellar game beyond what I'm used to. Then he fizzled out in the end, just the same as he always does, regrettably. Beyond that, I'm not too disappointed with how my unit or how my army performed. If I get a little more ranged firepower next time, I think it would go a long ways.
I managed to pull a victory against Clay, which is always a tough thing to do. Even though Clay says the man of the match for me was the Fire Prisms, I actually felt like the man of the match were my Dark Reapers, because they managed to do so much damage to the Wraithguard unit early in the game that they just didn't have the numbers to have really good firepower as the turns progressed. And when my own firepower started to thin out, it really reflected there, because I could do a casualty here and a casualty there, and it still did a lot of damage to him. The one thing I would say that really helped me out was having that sort of spare Guardian squad packed into a Wave Serpent. Normally I don't like disengaging a unit for an entire battle like that, but he had almost an entirely foot-based force, and I just had so much long-range firepower that he couldn't really get in there to mess up my lines until that unit was safe, and I was expecting they were actually going to be a draw unit. They were going to be a unit. They had star engines. They could move 36 inches to get to any objective at the end of the game. That wasn't covered by him. One thing that Dark Reapers also did was they stopped his striking scorpions from covering up an objective to contest and take one of my options away. So even though they died to the Wraith Lord, it was worth it for all the damage that they did. The fire prisms were pretty good, but I didn't get a lot of direct hits. I didn't cause as many casualties as I'd like to with them, partially because Clay does go out of his way to shake them and stop them from shooting, because when they combine and get that AP3 shot, it's really destructive towards his forces. And other than that, it was a great game. The Avatar nearly lived the entire game, but full strength Wraith Lord eventually took him down. I'm happy with the way he played. Him charging the Wraith Lord isn't too dissimilar from the Howling Banshees charging him. There was a chance he'd be victorious, but probably not. But it made the game a lot more fun.